My parents handed my son a $10 gift card. My nephew got a PS5, a new iPad, and $500. Dad claimed it was because of better grades. My son had straight A's. My nephew didn't. I stayed silent. Have you ever watched your own child's face crumple slightly, trying to hide their hurt, because your family, your own parents, made it painfully clear they weren't good enough? That was me Christmas morning. My son Eli clutching a $10 gas station gift card, while his cousin tore into a PS5. My dad's words, loud enough for everyone to hear, cut deeper than any knife. Carter's been working hard. Grades are improving. We reward effort. Eli's straight A report card was still on my fridge at home. In that moment, watching Eli's quiet disappointment, I knew I was done. Absolutely irrevocably done. I'm Naomi. I'm 36. I live in Chicago near Albany Park in a narrow brick 3-flat that I rent the bottom of. I'm a journalist on the city desk. My byline runs under stories about budget hearings and potholes that swallow tires. I like numbers. I like receipts. I like the part where things add up. I've been a single mom since Eli was 2. His dad and I share time. It's civil and boring, which is my favorite kind of co-parenting. Eli is quiet. He will stand in a room full of noise and see the one person who needs help and go do it. He brings me coffee-flavored hard candy from the bodega because he thinks it's fancy. My family has always treated me as the one who has it together. When I got promoted from night police blotter to City Hall, I set up a separate checking account I named Family Sundays. I did it to keep my sanity. One account to pay for the endless small things that made my parents and siblings feel held. It started with groceries. I put $200 per week on an Instacart order to my parents' address. Bread, eggs, the coffee my dad insists doesn't give him heartburn, even though it does. Then I added utilities because my mom liked the AC a little higher, and my dad pretended he didn't notice the bill. Combed $89 to $120 a month depending on if it was summer. Water around $34. I put my card on their internet because Dad's crossword wasn't loading and he blamed the city, not the router. I hosted every Sunday dinner. That wasn't even on the bank account. It was just me doing me. I bought a long table from IKEA and 4 extra chairs for drop-ins. I cooked pot roast, roasted chicken, lasagna, big enough to feed a small army. I had a drawer filled with birthday candles because none of them ever remembered who was turning what. I kept Fix-A-Flat in my trunk for Jake, my brother, because he never checked his tires. I paid for bigger things too. The roof on my parents' garage, $7,500, when my dad swore he'd do it himself and then stared at the sagging shingles for 6 months. My sister's car insurance for 3 months when she got behind, $600. Carter's tutoring a few times. The lake house in Michigan I booked every July through VRBO. 5 bedrooms. A porch that looked out at water so flat it turned the sky upside down. $3,200 if you booked early. They all called it our tradition. My card paid the first half in January and the second in May. If someone remembered, they brought marshmallows. It wasn't just money. It was the planning, the group text. Naomi, can you call the rental to see if they have a grill? Naomi, can you move dinner an hour because of the Bears game? Naomi, can you pick up extra cupcakes because Carter invited 2 more kids to his party? I was the one with the calendar everybody borrowed. Eli was there for all of it, helpful and invisible. At his birthday 2 years ago, my mom gave him a sweater that still had my brother's name on the tag in Sharpie. We didn't know what you're into, she said, while Carter unboxed new headphones and shouted into his phone about how cool Grandma was. On Cousin's Day, a thing my sister invented for Instagram, they went to a trampoline park and forgot to ask if Eli wanted to come. Oh my gosh, it was last minute, she texted when I asked why Eli's face wasn't in any of the photos. He'd been at my kitchen table, drawing everyone as superheroes. He'd made their capes the colors of the candies they liked. The picture got left under a chair, and I found it when I vacuumed the next morning. Some of it was careless. Some of it didn't feel careless. The tone changed the year I said no to my brother. He asked me to co-sign a loan to open a bar with his friend Travis, who once sold fake concert tickets. The loan officer should have just glued the nope to the paper. Jake, I love you, but absolutely not. After that, he started calling me cheap Naomi when he wanted to hurt me, and my rich sister when he wanted something. Dad got subtler. I found out he told my aunt that Naomi is doing so well she doesn't notice a little extra. A little extra turned into me floating the family phone plan for 2 months while my sister figured out her Venmo, and then 3 months, and then it's just easier if you leave it. I kept telling myself I was building a net that would hold all of us, that I was doing what I wish someone had done for me when Eli was a baby, and I was bouncing him with one knee while writing a story about potholes that had eaten a bus. I told myself it was temporary, a season. I told myself the money wasn't the point, family was. Then we got to that living room with the cream carpet and the blue ribbon. And my father told my straight-A kid that he didn't earn a real gift while my nephew, who was a child and not at fault for adult choices, was held up like a donation plate. It wasn't about a game console. It was about who counted when the envelopes were passed, and who was always expected to pick up the check. On the drive home, Eli held the $10 card in both hands like it might bite him. I watch the road when I'm upset because it lets me pretend I'm focused on something concrete like a lane line. Not all the messy thinking in my head. It's okay, Mom. It's not, I said, simple and honest. I like gas station candy, he said, trying. And then he laughed once, a little dry sound. Can I use it for gummy worms? Of course. We stopped for milk. He bought gummy worms and a scratch-off Christmas crossword because he thought I'd like it. We won nothing. He cheered like we'd won anyway. At home, he put his peppermint shampoo hair under a beanie and sat on the couch with a book he'd gotten from his dad's parents. I put my hand on the fridge and felt the cold through the metal. His report card with the comments about how he'd helped a new student learn the lunch line looked back at me like a receipt. Proof in neat columns and numbers. I set my laptop on the kitchen table. The table had a scratch from when we moved and a leg that wobbled unless I put a folded napkin under it. I opened my bank's website. First Midwest two-factor authentication, the little spinning circle that makes you question your choices for a second. My family Sundays checking account sat in the list under my personal checking and savings. I clicked. The balance was $7,842.13. Felt like a lot and like nothing depending on who was looking at it. Upcoming scheduled payments scrolled underneath like a to-do list. Instacart scheduled every Sunday morning at 9 a.m., $175. ComEd AutoPay pending January 4th, $92.17. Water Department $35.50. VRBO balance due 05/15/2 $2,800. The Our Sundays group text would blow up by noon tomorrow with what time is dinner, and can Jake bring his friend, and I'd send the address for the 5th time to my cousin who pretends not to know where I live. I pressed open chat, and asked the bank bot a question to see if I could do this without a human. The bot told me I'd need to call. Fine. I grabbed a pen. I called the bank from the number they recognized so I could avoid extra questions. I sat there listening to the recorded voice tell me that my call mattered while my cat sniffed the Instacart receipt I had stuck to the fridge with a magnet that says, World's Okayest Cook. A woman named Brenda came on. Hi Naomi. How can I help you? I need to close a checking account, I said, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone who had planned to do this for a long time and just didn't know when the right time was, which I guess was true. She asked me the usual security questions. Last 4 of my social, my mom's maiden name, the balance of my last deposit. She asked if anyone else was on the account. No, I said. It was always me. The family just had access in the way that someone learns your habits and spends them. Are there any pending payments? She asked. Yes, I said, because I don't lie to customer service ever. But I want to close the account today. I know pending payments will be returned. That's fine. She tried to offer a downgrade. We can keep the account open and you can pause the autopays. I appreciate it, I said. I'd like to close it. She sounded a little sad for me, in the way that strangers sometimes are when they hear you doing something hard. Okay, Naomi. Where would you like the remaining balance to go? My personal savings ending in 448. I watched her type. I watched numbers move. Swipe a bit of power back. She read me a confirmation number. I wrote it on the Instacart magnet. I read it back with my reporter voice, crisp and exact. She told me to destroy my debit card for that account. I pulled it from the drawer, white, the bank's logo worn off from years of grocery store scanners, and cut it in half with the kitchen scissors. It felt like cutting a ribbon at a grand opening. Except it was the opposite. When she said, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" I said, "No, that's it. We don't owe strangers all the stories that led up to us choosing ourselves." I closed the laptop. I didn't text the family. I didn't subtweet. I didn't compose a speech in the bathroom mirror. I walked back to the living room and put my arm around Eli. We watched some cooking show where everybody's edges were kind and nobody brought up report cards. At 9:02 the next morning my phone buzzed. The Our Sundays chat lit up. "Mom, what time dinner?" "Jake, I'm bringing Travis. He's cool now." "Sister, Carter wants that mac and cheese you did last time." I typed, "Not hosting this week." 3 dots blinked. Then Mom, "Are you sick?" "Me? No." "Jake, drama." "Sister, is this because Carter got what he deserved?" "Dad, don't be petty, Naomi. Rewarding effort isn't a crime." I put my phone face down. I made pancakes with chocolate chips because I knew Eli would think that meant a party, even if it's just 2 people at a wobbly table. At noon, an email from Instacart titled, "Payment failed." At 12:07 Mom texted, "Groceries aren't going through. Is everything okay with your bank?" I turned my ringer off. I cut pancakes into squares. Eli put gummy worms on top like he was a chef who had lost his mind. I wasn't mad anymore. I was done. The week after they tried again. Mom called. "I don't know what's happening with the bills. Your father says the light company is calling. You'll need to put your own card on the account," I said. I kept my voice even. Reporters learn to say hard things like their weather. "I closed that checking account." "Why would you do that?" "I'm not your backup bank," I said. "Not unkind. And I won't fund a family my kid isn't part of." "That's ridiculous," she said. "Eli knows we love him. He knows what he got." She huffed. "This is about a gift." "It's not," I said. "You know it isn't." She hung up. The group chat went dead for 2 days. Then my sister sent a screenshot of a VRBO message. "Balance due by May 15th. She wrote, "Did your card change?" I ignored it. I had changed my life. Jake called me vindictive in a text and spelled it wrong. He said I was doing this because a man had told me to. He never could say Eli's dad's name without making it sound like a stranger. I laughed alone in my kitchen. Then I set my phone down and folded laundry. Aunt Leela knocked on my door on a Thursday. She lives 8 blocks away and walks even in snow. She had a tin of cookies that looked like they had fought each other in the oven, but tasted like childhood. She took off her hat and said, "I didn't like that gift." I laughed and then I cried fast and quiet. Eli brought her a glass of water like he was 70. She patted the couch. "I remember when your mother's sisters used to do that to me," she said. I stopped going. They notice when the pies stop showing up. They always noticed the pies. "I closed the account," I said. "Good," she said. "Let them buy their own pies." They tried to come over the next Sunday. My mother stood on my porch with flowers from the grocery store. "The kind that die in 3 days no matter what you do." "Let's talk," she said. "We can talk," I said, stepping onto the porch and closing the door behind me so Eli could keep building his Lego ship in peace. "I'm not your backup bank. I'm off your accounts. I'm not hosting." "How are we supposed to do holidays?" she asked, genuinely bewildered. "Like everyone else," I said. "Figure it out together. Share the work or don't." Dad kept saying, "It's not that deep. It's just gifts." I said, "You made it that deep." He switched to, "You're overreacting." I said, "I didn't react. I took my name off a bill. They tried to guilt me." "Family shouldn't keep score," my sister wrote. The same week she sent me a Venmo request for $14.99 for a streaming service she had forgotten wasn't actually free. I repeated my line like it was the only sentence I knew. "I won't fund a family my kid isn't part of." Sometimes I added, "You're off my accounts." It felt almost like I was teaching them a new phrase in a language they didn't want to learn. Not everyone bailed. My cousin Maria texted, "Do you and Eli want to come over for pizza Friday?" "No gifts, just my loud dog." We went. Eli laughed so hard at the dog trying to eat a balloon that milk came out of his nose. He told me in the car, "I like it when it's just people who aren't keeping track." He used that phrase for months whenever something felt easy. The first big holiday without me as the cruise director was Easter. No one sent an address. No ham pictures appeared on Facebook. On Monday, Mom texted me, "We ended up at Chili's." Felt like a confession. I wrote back, "Hope the chips were good." It wasn't snark. I genuinely wish them chips that didn't break in the salsa. By summer, the VRBO host had probably rebooked our slot. My sister sent a photo of Carter sitting on a lawn chair in a kiddie pool in their backyard with the caption, "Our lake house." It was funny. I double-tapped it. I meant it. I hope that kid gets more backyard summers than performances in living rooms where adults pretend inexpensive things are priceless and kids are price tags. Jake kept pestering. "You broke up the family," he wrote in July. I wrote back, "I turned off a faucet you didn't notice was running." He didn't respond. Eli and I made tacos on Sundays. Sometimes Aunt Leela showed up with her cookies. Sometimes Maria and her loud dog came. Sometimes it was just us. We set the table with the 2 plates we always used and left the extra chairs folded against the wall. It wasn't quiet because we were lonely. It was quiet because no one was being measured. A year later I could count the things I'd missed. Tense group texts, plastic chairs on cream carpet, and feel nothing but exhale. My parents still call. The calls are shorter. Sometimes my dad starts with, "How's my boy?" And we stick to whether the socks will ever make it interesting. Once he said out of nowhere, "Did you know your mother's sister always gave your cousins the expensive doll and you got a puzzle?" He laughed like it was a nostalgia story. I didn't join. "I'm not doing puzzles anymore," I said, and he went quiet in a way that sounded like a thought landing. Not hosting is not the same as never opening my door. We had Thanksgiving at my place with Aunt Leela and Maria, and 2 of the cousins who chose our side by showing up with pie and paper plates. I roasted a chicken because a turkey felt like a performance. I set 2 empty chairs because I'm sentimental even when I pretend not to be. No one sat in them. I didn't stare. Eli made a place card for me that said, "Mom, Editor-in-Chief of Sundays." He drew tiny tacos in the corners. I put it on the fridge next to his new report card and a drawing he titled, "Our Table." In the drawing he made the chairs too big and the plates too round and all of us smiling in a way I had used to think kids drew when they wanted to convince themselves of something. This time it looked like a mirror. I redirected the money. That first night after I closed the account, I had moved $7,842.13 into my savings. A month later, I opened a $529 for Eli with $5,000 and a recurring transfer for $200 a month. I showed him the statement because I think children should see the lines that lead to their futures. He squinted at the numbers like they were a secret code. "So this is for college?" he asked. "Or whatever you want to learn," I said. We celebrated with gas station gummy worms. We used a $10 card. It felt funny and full circle and perfectly fine. We skipped the big lake house. In July, I found a 1-bedroom cabin on a little river in Indiana where the mosquitoes owned the place, and the owner left a tackle box for guests. It cost $480 for 3 nights. Eli caught a fish that was more hooked than body. We let it go. At night you could hear trains. We made esmeralda in a pan on the stove because the fire pit was more ambition than either of us had. He fell asleep with a book on his chest. I wrote a column about a budget hearing and a pothole and a woman who had stood up with a receipt and asked the city to explain itself. I didn't put my family in it. I didn't need to. Sometimes people think the moral is that my parents learned their lesson and now we all eat at the same table. That's not the story. The story is I stopped paying for a table that had rules my son would never meet and built one where everyone who sits gets seen. My boundary is quiet now. It doesn't need to be announced every Sunday. If they ask, I repeat it calm as weather. I'm not your backup bank. You're off my accounts. I won't fund a family my kid isn't part of. When my dad dropped off a bag of oranges because they were on sale, he looked around my kitchen like a man who recognizes a new country. He stared at the drawing on the fridge. "He's good," he said. "He is," I said. I sent him home with leftover tacos and no calendar invites. The cream carpet can stay clean without us. My table wobbles unless I put a napkin under it. But it's enough. What do you think? Was I too harsh? Or was it time to finally put my son and myself first? Have you ever had to cut ties or set firm boundaries with family for the sake of your children or your own well-being? Share your story in the comments below.